Hi folks, I'm Spencer, and on today's episode of Cult Mania we're getting both arty and extreme with Begotten. Directed by Elias Merhige, Begotten is, for all intents and purposes, it's an art film. And I mean that in the strongest sense of the word. It was originally conceived as a sort of theatre performance art sort of thing, and then they realised that making it that way was going to be incredibly expensive, so then they turned it into a film that is very much in that performance art installation style, but was released as a film, and you can get it on DVD and all that sort of stuff. It pops up on a bunch of like most disturbing films. If you've ever seen the sort of cover art poster thing, that is really quite creepy. It's black and white, shot in 4:3 on film, and yeah, it was definitely meant to push people's buttons. Plot summary wise, this is not an easy film to summarise because, to be honest, telling what is happening is really bloody difficult. I found this film on YouTube and watched it through that. I decided randomly that on an evening when my wife had gone to bed and I was staying up for a bit, I thought, do you know what I will do? I will start to watch what is classified as one of the most disturbing films of all time. The plot follows, it's sort of like a creation myth type thing. You have this character in this weird shack who is credited as God killing himself. He disembowels himself with a straight razor, and from the spewed out guts and poo, because he poos himself when he dies, comes out like Mother Earth or Mother Nature, who then, using the corpse of God, inseminates herself and gives birth to like the son of the earth or something. And then a bunch of people do nasty things to them. Basically, it's a bunch of vignettes of sort of disturbing things filmed in a very arty manner with no dialogue whatsoever that do sort of fit this performance art style. And if it weren't for the fact that people had commented a synopsis of the plot, I really don't think I would have had any idea what was going on at all. Which I guess is perhaps part of the point, you know, unless you, bear in mind, you know, you have God, Mother Nature, whatever, as characters, but you would never know this until you got to the end credits and saw that that's what they're credited as. So it is an odd experience watching it. And, it's an odd one. Like I said, it's very performance arty, there's no dialogue. And it's an odd... I have problems with the performances. Mainly, it has that... Because this came out in like the 90s. Has that problem where I think people had decided that it was really cool and shocking to portray people who are severely sort of mentally ill to the point that, you know, they don't move, they don't have control of their limbs. So you get a lot of people just sort of sat flailing, and it just doesn't sit well with me. Or it's really just off-put. This like, oh look, we're being edgy because we're pretending to be mentally ill. And it's just great. Yeah. And I mean, you know, the film opens with God killing himself, then pooing himself, then someone making the dead body of God orgasm, and I mean, that is probably the strongest imagery, because the film is shot in this style where they shot it in black and white on film, and then to make it look like an artifact, I think was the word that they were going for, of a time gone by, they re-photographed the film to such a degree that there is only white and black. They got rid of any mid-tone in the imagery, which looks cool. From what I understand, it was a pain in the ass to do, because it took about 7 or 8 hours to do like a second of film or something like that. And it also often would go wrong and they'd have to do it again because it would be too bright or too dark. And it does look very striking, and when it works really well, but it often means you are looking at things and going, I have no idea what I'm looking at. I don't know what that is. That's just shape and colour. And I think in a way it allows the film to get away with some disturbing imagery that probably wouldn't in other places. And in some places it makes things look disturbing that probably didn't look disturbing to the people making them. But like I said, it also means that there are a vast amount of times that you'll go, I don't actually know what's happening. Or is that... there's a bit where the son starts sort of vomiting up organy things, I think, but you aren't actually sure what they are. And I don't know whether you're not supposed to know what they are, or whether it's just, what am I looking at? But... you know, there are very striking images that come out of this style, and if the film was shorter and were just those images, it would be a lot better. But it's a 72-minute long film. For a chunk of it, I was like, okay, I've seen this. Or I'm looking at something, I don't know what it is, and I've been looking at it for a few minutes now, and I don't really know what's happening, and I've got better things to be doing. And then it will hit some sort of fantastic image and you'll go, oh, this is why I've sat and watched the rest of it. Because, I'll be honest, it's quite boring. It's quite a boring film, and it didn't really disturb me, particularly. But I watched it all, and it did linger in my mind. There were images, that is creepy and unsettling. And then there are other points that you'll read what is supposedly happening. I didn't get that at all, because I couldn't see what was happening. I do genuinely think this film was meant to piss people off to a degree, and I think, and one of the key points in this is the sound design of the film. Like I said, there's no dialogue. The film must have been shot completely silent, and there isn't a fat lot of music. When there is, it's this sort of weird, ethereal, high-pitched droning that is actually really quite creepy, and especially when paired with the imagery, those moments were the bits that unsettled me the most. And sometimes they're not particularly unsettling thing. It's just this beautiful marriage of sound and vision. But I do think the sound design is a key point that was meant to annoy the shit out of you. Because, I mean, for nearly all of the 70-minute runtime, there is this sound, I think it's of like crickets chirping, and it doesn't go away. It perhaps fades out for about 5 minutes of the entire runtime. Or you can use... you're like, oh my god, they've infested my brain. Or like, there's a dripping sound early on, like just like a tap that you've left dripping, and it must have been designed to grate on you incessantly. Because if it wasn't, what on earth were they going for? But no, again, I wonder what it would be like on like big sound, because again, like I was watching it through a YouTube rip, so it does make you wonder whether hearing it on it would be oppressive. Probably it would be almost perhaps painful. I'm not selling the film at all, and I've come to the conclusion that there are 4 responses you can have to Begotten. None of them are probably. I don't think there's a way that you can go like flat on this. I don't think anyone probably has a neutral response to the film. I think you either go, I have no idea what's going on and I'm bored. I have no idea what's going on and that's making me feel uncomfortable. I know what's going on, but it's not shocking me as much as I think it wants to. Or, I know exactly what's going on and it's freaking me out. I feel like, to me, it's a really odd one, because like I said, I watched it all and I was vaguely enthralled. I was very interested in it, but it did so much to make me not want to like it. It was a really odd experience, and I think perhaps the best way to see the film would almost be in an art gallery in which all of the scenes are playing at once on different walls of the gallery space. And this is really weird, and I know I sound pretentious right now, but I think it's that every image or sequence that it conjures has individually interesting ideas, interesting imagery, but it all goes on for too long. So I think the idea that you could watch a bit of the bit where God is disemboweling himself, and you could go, okay, I've got what I needed from that, and I will go to the next sequence, which would be playing on loop, and then you'd go, okay, I've seen the woman come out of the guts, and okay, I know what she's doing, okay, I'm going to move on to the next bit, rather than having to sit through it all just to get to those individually interesting moments. I find it impossible to recommend because, like I said, it's sort of annoying. I find it slightly offensive, not in a cool, blasphemous fashion, but in its depiction of mental illness. But also, there are great images, and I think if you are into art and art cinema, there is stuff to be there is interesting stuff, and I think this idea of this weird dark creation myth is interesting. I just think the film's too long for its own good, and I think it's interesting that it was supposed to be part of this trilogy. We've only had the second part, which was more recent. That's only 15 minutes, and it's 15 minutes of jazzy patterns generally, which is cool, and I sort of went with a lot more because it was 15 minutes and I didn't feel like I'd spent so long. So it's nowhere near as shocking as I think I expected it to be, and perhaps that was disappointing. But actually, I watched this about a week ago, and I sort of went back to watch bits of it to review it now, and actually I was sort of intrigued watching it again. I don't know. I feel like it's an experience, not necessarily one you want, but Begotten is an experience. But that is just my very rambling opinion. What did you think of Begotten? Have you seen it? Do you want to see it now, or have I put you off it completely? Let me know down in the comments. Like and subscribe so you don't miss any more videos, and I shall see you next time.